Welcome everyone back to Spoiler Warning, featuring myself, Tom Colohue. We are of course talking wrestling news. As always, our top story will be the WWE essentially seeing New Orleans outbid for WrestleMania and the state of State of Nevada, home to Las Vegas, trying to ensure that WrestleMania remains there essentially for the rest of its life cycle. It's a pretty big piece of news. We also will be talking about Zoey Stark's injury. We're going to be talking about Kairi Sane's return, Jeff Cobb's deal with WWE. We're going to be talking a little bit about how Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair became a team that they are. We're going to talk a big name on Raw moving over to SmackDown, as well as why Roxanne Perez has found her way to Judgment Day. It does involve face turns. We'll of course be answering as many of your questions as we can. Please do be sure to hit like as you join the show so that we can get this rolling and get this growing. We'll start by talking about WrestleMania. WrestleMania next year was supposed to take place in New Orleans in Louisiana. The deal was already struck. The deal was struck, but the ink was not yet dry. The amount of money that New Orleans offered the WWE is said to have been substantial. But they are actively competing not just for one WrestleMania, they wanted all of the WrestleManias, and so did Las Vegas. In fact, there are a number of cities who are trying to make bids and are willing to put in bids for much higher numbers of money if they can be reassured of several year-long deals. They don't want 1 year of WrestleMania. Saudi Arabia are also said to be competing in a similar vein, eager to have more than 1 year of Royal Rumble and trying as well to compete for WrestleManias. And of course we know that London is trying to bid for a WrestleMania, but the amount of money involved is simply too much for the UK government to agree with. So there are huge numbers being bandied around at the moment by Las Vegas in order to try and make this happen. The deal with New Orleans has been scrapped. The idea seems to be that New Orleans will get apology PLEs. New Orleans representatives are said to be furious with the change, especially after already having spent significant amounts of money on planned promotions and structural changes. WWE is aiming to placate them with the lesser shows at a discounted rate because WrestleMania is simply worth that much more. Nevada state legislators, how was that difficult, are said to be interested in making WrestleMania a Vegas-only event due to the sheer amount of money WrestleMania made for the local economy and businesses. The casinos on the Strip in and around Las Vegas made so much money, bear with me, off of the tourism that arrived for WrestleMania in one weekend that it essentially rivaled the biggest nights ever in Las Vegas. The casinos are begging their legislators to ensure that WrestleMania comes back every single year, so the amount of money on offer is for multiple years. The number that's been mentioned most is a 5-year deal, but the WWE at this point are not said to be willing to agree to that length, knowing that in 5 years, the amount that they will receive from a Las Vegas will probably be much more than they would right now. Oh. So Las Vegas won. Las Vegas got what they wanted. New Orleans are furious with WWE, but WrestleMania seems like it will never be leaving the United States. We have plenty more news to share. We have 84 people on the YouTube side. Let's get those likes in, guys. Have a double check, see if you've hit like. And of course, I should mention we're using the same system we have been doing previously as regards donations and gifts as they are on the TikTok side. For every $1, for every £1, we do a squat. We've been doing quite a lot of squats recently. You know what? I'm starting to feel it less. So, there's our first one. Thank you very much. Proud dad for the heart. I very much appreciate you. Oh, lots of chat, Ray, lots of cherry coke. We do indeed have cherry coke back. Little story about this one as to why you've not seen me drinking it recently. And it's because of you guys that I right now am. I want to start with a thank you. And it's a big one. You see, I don't like to mention it too much. But part of the whole moving house and everything means that right now I have a pretty significant outlay. I'm spending a lot of money, and I have to in order to make the changes that I'm looking for. I don't like to mention it too much because I'm concerned that it's essentially sending a message to you guys that isn't accurate. I am not in need of further support. We're all handled. It's just every now and then we're going to have a moment where I have to bunker in a little bit, and it's a little bit uncomfortable. So I made a change and swapped out of Cherry Coke as one of the many ways in which we're just saving a little bit of money. Today, I received the paycheck from YouTube specifically for WrestleMania weekend. In case you guys have forgotten, WrestleMania weekend was a very worthwhile endeavor for me, and very, very generous period. And thank you massively to everyone who did give so much during that time. The paycheck in question was £270. That is a considerable amount, which has certainly allowed me, knowing I've got another paycheck coming at the end of the month for my day job, to buy myself some Cherry Coke. So it's been a slightly stressful time, but I appreciate all of you sticking with me. Yes, it is one of the reasons that the squats came back. Yes, it is one of the reasons I've been putting the goals on. I don't want to be pressuring anyone to do anything. Thank you. Thank you for generosity. Thank you for gifts. Thank you for being here, because a lot of that was ad revenue. A lot of that was you guys just being here. So, thank you. And I will keep saying it because it will keep being true. Now, I owe some guys some squats because we've had from Ed a heart and a popular vote. From Proud Daddy, you're awesome. I appreciate that. That's an interesting cat. That's 3 more squats, guys. 3 more squats. Let's do this. Okay. Also, I'm not fit, so this is only doing me the world of good. That's 3 more. Thank you very much, guys. I also want to say a big thank you to everyone dropping Jesus Christ. I know no one's actually dropped Jesus Christ. I got distracted halfway through that. Whoa. Okay, so I've seen someone say, do you feel the burn? I'm about to. Before we continue, I'm going to take a moment. Corey, thank you so much for that. It's far from your first donation. It's far from your first big donation. You've been incredibly generous to the channel, and I thank you for it. Has gifted $50. Says, all right, Tom, fun game. Who's the next big AEW star to jump to WWE in your opinion? I know that the WWE have a long-standing interest in MJF, which has not gone away. However, the majority of people seem to be very, very excited about Mariah May, and there is definitely huge interest there. So, that's the answer to the question. Now I've got to do 50 squats. So, this stream for a moment might not be very wrestling related. I'm going to do some batches of 10, just to make sure to keep it interesting. So I'm going to do 10 at this point. Thank you again, Corey. I'm going to do 10 now. Then I appreciate that, Corey, but we're doing this for a reason. I'm going to do 10 now, then we'll do a bit of news, and then we'll do 10 more. Just keep reminding me, okay? I appreciate it, Corey. It's very generous of you. So we'll do our first one. And 2. We're going to answer all of your questions and things as well. Nobody is going to miss out, I promise you. I've lost track there. I think that was 5. I got distracted. Anyway, so that will be 7, 8, 9, and 10. Another reason I want to do them in batches is because I will definitely forget, and I will definitely make sure to do all of them. Thank you as always, guys. Proud Dad said, welcome to the Squat Live. Yeah, that's kind of how we've ended up there. Thank you, Corey. I appreciate you. Your generosity has really helped me to buy Cherry Coke. It's helped me feel more comfortable in a time which could potentially have been very stressful. Thank you. Thank you too to everyone dropping chat rate in the chat. You all know how that works, and it's one of the reasons we so quickly get up to 100 people nowadays. Thank you very much. Everton says the word making the rounds locally in Las Vegas this afternoon is that WWE is finalising WrestleMania 42 to be held once again in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium next year. And I can confirm that to be the case. Irish Neep says, give me good news, Tom. I'd imagine some of these you're going to find very good news, yeah. Welcome Juan, welcome Leon. You alright, mate? Declan says hi, Tom. Welcome Declan. Marcel says hi, Tom. Welcome Marcel. Everton adds, per PWInsider, TKO's decision to return to Vegas for WrestleMania 42 is mainly profit-driven, as they believe they can repeat this year's strong numbers, and Vegas are more than willing to spend for it. Hello, Kelly. Good to see you. Sid says that WWE or AEW interested in signing free agent Ace Austin. Not to my knowledge on WWE. On WWE side, AEW is a maybe. Khalid says WrestleMania in London. I would definitely go. I certainly would as well. Everton is also saying, per WrestleVotes, Alberto Del Rio is currently planned to appear at the upcoming Worlds Collide PLE on June 7th. I can't imagine he wouldn't, on the basis that he's holding gold, as I recall. Welcome, Ken. Good to see you, mate. Welcome, Michael. I appreciate that, Declan. Calvin says, hey, Tom, the fact that WrestleMania is being held in Vegas 2 years in a row is beyond insane. And Declan just shouts, Cherry Coke. I'm not going to disagree. Calvin says, you haven't felt any burn in those squats. I'm going to, as you know. I've got 40 more to do. Hector says, with that WWE logic, might as well book every major PLE in Saudi Arabia, considering the amount of money they can offer WWE. I wonder how this affects the Indianapolis deal, because they're owed a Mania. They kind of are, and they would have to get something pretty special in order to avoid doing that. As regards to Saudi mention, it's not unfair. However, WWE right now are very nervous about taking big sporting events out of the US because of the current administration. Chris says, I think Las Vegas is disgusting. I think all the country deserve to have their local economy boosted. Yeah, I would agree by and large. However, everyone's being competitive and everyone's a bit looking out for number one, unfortunately. Proud Dad says, any updates on Bronson Reed's return schedule? Not at this point in time. The injury, unfortunately, is still wearing on him, but I do believe he's getting fit as we speak, ready for a potential clearance in the near future. Dylan says, what's the reason why WrestleMania next year isn't in New Orleans and it's really going back to Vegas? Money. Daniel says, hey everyone, happy Friday. Happy Friday to you too. Everton says, Drew McIntyre says that he's currently working hurt and can't turn his head all the way left yet. The man always seems to be hurt, unfortunately. I do hope he eventually is healed and clear, but he needs to stop wrestling people like Sheamus if that's what's going to happen. Roy says, Scorpio Sky, who disappeared from AEW TV, says he thinks someone in the company had issues with something he said in an interview with Chris Van Vliet. Interesting. Michael says the Cherry Coke doesn't help with the fitness. It really doesn't, but at least I can say it's Cherry Coke Zero. So I'm making a token gesture. Everton bringing in more news to the chat and sourcing as well. Appreciate how you're doing, Everton. Says, per Fightful, Goldberg's retirement match in WWE is tentatively set for Atlanta, Georgia. That would make sense. Saturday night's main event on July 12th in Atlanta is rumoured to be the spot. So the day before, they're also rumouring Evolution. Interesting. Calvin said, I'd just lose it at WrestleMania. If WrestleMania was at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium in Memphis, it's right next to my old high school. Danny says, oops, sorry, I've lost track a little bit there. Danny, welcome. Says, just wanted to say, thank you, Tom, for everything. Just wanted to pop in and say that. I appreciate you, Danny. It's a very nice thing to say. Cool, Marcel. Good to know. Ryan says, Tom, do you think that Saudi Arabia could be involved in the move from New Orleans to WrestleMania for WrestleMania 42? Or do you think it's going to be Vegas who gets it? To my knowledge, it's Vegas who've got it. Ken says, bet Tom is regretting saying he's not feeling it. You're not wrong. Sean, we do have something on Roxanne and Judgement Day still to come. Aaron says, just got back from the gym before the show, excited for the show today. And yet you're going to have to, unfortunately, watch someone at a gym, basically. Dylan says, I think London should get Mania next year. That's not on the cards. Ken likes the shirt. I quite like this one. It's the Death Star Pokeball. It's one of my favourites. Calvin says, New Day was seen talking to New Day. Cool. Kel says, hey Tom, hope you and your family are well. Very well, thank you, mate. Always nice to see you check in. Kel says, do you expect the Wyatt 6 today? Apparently there are rumours via PWInsider, they've been dropped in the chat earlier, that we have members of the Wyatt 6 there, yes. Mike says, are any other big cities willing to bid for a 5-year deal? Not yet. But I imagine once word gets out, they're going to. Cal says, just want to say happy birthday to the greatest mind in professional wrestling and also the greatest person in professional wrestling, Bray Wyatt. His legacy will live forever. Thank you, Everton. I can see you're reading the chat and responding to things. That's a good way of doing it. Says there's been talk that the Wyatt 6 may finally be returning to TV soon via PWInsider. The way you do things here is perfect, mate. One says, hey Tom, Dave Meltzer believes AEW moving all out to Canada also has a lot to do with the Punk fans ruining it, like wishing them Wow, that's a lot of words. Corey says, I really want to see London, but Vegas isn't a surprise. Would not be surprised if WWE operations are moved there entirely, considering UFC and all. Noob says, hello, Mr. Colohue, how are you doing today? Seems like WrestleMania 42 or 41.5 might be served as a problem after what happened this year for Travis Scott. Really not sure what you're referring to there, mate. Cecil says, we're here in New Orleans, not loving the tariff. They exported our mania. Basically, that's exactly what happened. Mary says, if they aren't on today, then when are the Wyatts coming? SmackDown is nothing until the Wyatts are back. Carl says, are you streaming for tomorrow? I am not, unfortunately, a little busy on this one. It's why you didn't get a last-minute news show. Corey, thank you very kindly. Says, still have to get in 10k steps today, and you thought those 10 counted. Anyway, hope the Wyatts are back and might be the only one, but would love to see Britt Baker in NXT at some point. Appreciate it, mate. Appreciate that. I'm just going to catch up with the chat. We'll do our next 10 squats, then our next piece of news. Hector said, I know it's a dream, but Las Vegas is so out of the way for most normal wrestling fans. It would be nice if the ticket prices are more affordable than this past Mania, but that'll never happen. Paul says, Gabe Kidd randomly helped Moxley retain the title in a steel cage. This week he isn't even announced for the match. They brought him in for what? To help Moxley retain the title in a steel cage. Literally. And Khalid says, if Y6 return tonight, I'll be happy to see Bo Dallas again. So I'll take this opportunity. Thank you everyone for replying to Corey as well. That's another great way of showing your gratitude and your support. So 10 more squats and then we'll do our next piece of news. If you're watching on YouTube, I apologise for my missing head. And if you're watching for the first time, this isn't normal. This isn't something we do all the time, but also it kind of is. And it's just a way that we try and keep a positive response to donations, a way that I can say thank you by intentionally making myself a little bit uncomfortable and also potentially helping my knees improve. So that's another 10. We'll do our next piece of news. There's still 40 squats to go. Lovely. Our next piece of news is as regards Zoe Stark. Now, I can confirm, and this is obviously bad news, Zoe Stark has been seriously injured in the triple threat match on Raw, and she's going to be out of action for an indefinite amount of time. Now, there are concerns over the timing of this injury, given that she's been left in a very awkward position with no real allies and struggling to get even the slightest chance to get over. She was part of a faction of 3 people. 2 of them have now gone. So she's very exposed and in a very difficult position at the moment. And it's going to be interesting to see what the WWE are able to give her in order to keep her looking and feeling strong. First, the first rumours and hints that we've got coming out of WWE is that we will not see her for the rest of this year, which is obviously not good news. Outside of the injury to Zoe still staying on that same match, we saw the return of Kairi Sane. WWE were going to try and keep her strong. Zoe was there to take the pin, but instead, we went with something slightly different. Thank you, Eric Holmes, for following on the TikTok side. I appreciate you. WWE were happy enough with Kairi Sane's return to action. There were some concerns that the mismatch in size between the 2 of them, particularly against someone the size of Rhea Ripley, would be a difficult bridge to gap without Zoe Stark involved. But Sane was praised when she returned backstage for ensuring that the match remained competitive and also for ensuring that when she did get pinned, it was at least in a way that keeps her relatively strong. So they did have to call it in the ring, which is sometimes difficult with a wrestler like Kairi Sane because there is still a language barrier there, but they were able to make it work. So lots of praise was given to both women upon their return. Ollie says, do you think there's a chance of her getting the Dakota Kai treatment and getting released because of injury? Zoe Stark does not have the same injury history that Dakota Kai does. What I will say is that Dakota Kai was largely released because she simply wasn't available anywhere near often enough to the WWE in their eyes. Whereas Zoe Stark, this is her first major injury during her time with the company. She's not as prolific and involved as Dakota Kai was, though. Basically, she doesn't have a damage control around her to protect her. Thank you for following, Ollie. I appreciate that. And please, by all means, address any further questions you have. I'm eager to answer and respond. Roy says, I'm going to watch TNA Under Siege instead of watching SmackDown. You go, mate. You enjoy. Sean says, via Corey Brennan, following WWE's UK tryout earlier this year, WWE pursuing signing Zozea, a name I'm not familiar with, but one I've seen reports attributed to Fightful Select talking about. Declan says, how long do you see the Lyra and Becky feud? Until Bayley returns in the build-up to SummerSlam. Calvin says, Grayson Waller was seen talking to New Day. New Day even brought up 18 down? A-Town Down Under, that's the one. Saying Fury will get his head kicked off. Could we be seeing an alliance with Waller and New Day? Certainly that's an opportunity for Grayson Waller after the split. Corey says, did a little better on NBA betting than what I did last week. Calvin says, is Charlotte in a qualifier tonight? I've not seen the card, but I suspect she's going to be involved going forwards. Interesting, Corey. Arn says, cheers, Tom. Sad to be late, but happy I got most of it. No worries. No one's ever late here. You're welcome whenever you arrive. Kevin, what are you trying to say, mate? What are you accusing me of? Dylan says, going forward, is Mania going to be in Vegas every second year? We'll see. There are negotiations ongoing, but it seems like this year they've got their wish. Drive-by says, Roman Reigns is in talks to play Akuma in the Street Fighter movie with Jason Momoa. Hollywood Reigns, here we come. I need the Street Fighter movie to be almost exactly blow for blow as good and / bad as the previous Street Fighter movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Roman Reigns as Blanca would be fun. That's all I'm going to say. Erin is wishing Zoe a speedy recovery. All my thoughts are certainly with her as well to get back to fighting fitness. The Rabbit says, hope Zoe gets better also. Everton says, John Cena, Travis Scott and Logan Paul against presumably a team of Cody Rhodes, Jimmy and Jey Uso is being pitched for Money in the Bank 2025 via PWInsider. For anyone who watched on Friday, I did report as regards. Firstly, Travis Scott in any sort of tag team with John Cena. Logan Paul was not mentioned on that show. And the return of Cody Rhodes' schedule, which is coming soon. Proud Dad says, when it comes to Kairi Sane, she was put over big by Rhea, even in a loss. And knowing that Rhea was pivoting into the win, she wanted to make sure that we did get a very strong reception for Kairi Sane. Ed, you're not keeping count. I've got 40 left. 40. Corey has donated a very generous $60. So far, I've done 20. Got 40 left, but don't worry. I'm going to get on it. David Jones says, hello, Tom and everyone. Everton says, Money in the Bank 26 will be held in New Orleans. According to the Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation, that's via WrestleNomics, who I believe have the greatest level of accuracy in any sort of wrestling reporting. Dylan says, I know this is nice, but I think WWE are going to take this opportunity to let her go from the company if she keeps getting injured. I'd imagine what you're trying to say is not nice. Sean says, Twitter has been down for over a day, Tom. DMs are working, but people still can't log in on the app, but they can log in via internet browser. Didn't even notice on the base side. I don't even use it anymore. Oh, KJ, thank you for clarifying. I wasn't aware of an NXT injury, but tearing your ACL, that's a bad sign. Sean says, Charlotte isn't qualified tonight. It's Charlotte versus Julia versus Zelina. Ooh, Zelina's got no chance there. Millennial Noob says, first off, I'm wishing Zoe Stark a speedy recovery. Second off, I'm happy that Kairi Sane is back. Hopefully she'll get a push during the summer. Ray, probably not going to be watching Double or Nothing myself. Demental says, Charlotte versus Julia versus Zelina for a spot in the Women's Money in the Bank. Calvin says, I'm often amazed by how China, Rhea and Jay were able to quickly get over with fans despite being in heel factions. We're seeing the same with Bron. Bron was already over, to be fair. The other Mike says, let's just hope the Street Fighter remake is not as bad as the Mortal Kombat remake. I'd say it was better than the Street Fighter movie. That's all I'm going to say. Everton has dropped the cards. You really handed it, haven't you, mate? I appreciate it. Advertised for SmackDown tonight. Street Profits versus Fraxian for the tag titles. Julia versus Charlotte Flair versus Zelina Vega in a Money in the Bank qualifier. And Aleister Black versus LA Knight versus Shinsuke Nakamura in a Money in the Bank qualifier. Calvin says, I don't know why, but I feel like Cody will return tomorrow to save Truth. Bam Bam says, there's a report this week from PWInsider that WWE are planning to launch NXT Europe later this year. Ray says, what has happened to Jack Perry in AEW? He hasn't been seen since he lost the TNT title. Taking a break. Proud Dad says, any news on a second chance match for Money in the Bank qualifiers? Hope Chelsea makes the match. They do consider this for the women when they run out of women. They don't believe they're going to run out of women with only 9 competing in the qualifiers this year. It says the Street Fighter movie is epically bad, almost on Super Mario Bros. 90s version level. To be fair, yes, that's absolutely true. Corey says, I thought Nakamura was leaving. Also, Fightful kind of alluded to AJ might have re-signed because WWE released a new shirt that any injury time would have been fulfilled at this point. AJ Styles always announces when he signs a new deal, so it might just be a handshake deal at this point in time. What I would say about Nakamura, he is still leaving. Calvin's predicting that Charlotte and Knight will qualify. I kind of go in the same direction personally, though I think it will be Julia rather than Charlotte. I still think LA Knight is the right call and Nakamura is there to take the pin. Nathan, at the beginning of the show I mentioned WrestleMania 42. It does look like Las Vegas will be the destination. Thank you everyone for dropping the chat rate. We have 108 people on the YouTube side, 38 likes. Let's see if we can get them higher. We are going to, once again, 10 more squats, taking us down to just 30 left, and then we will do our next piece of news. So 10 more squats to bring us to 30 left, and can I just say my knees hurt when I stood up then, so that is a negative sign, a very negative sign. 10 more, let's see how we do. So 1, and I do worry that I'm going to lose count. I'm very nervous about the whole concept. And I do think as well, you're forcing me to have dynamite thighs. Dynamite thighs. Gotta do the calves next. Gotta find a way to do full body workouts while on stream. Ooh, okay. Yeah. Don't even have a floor at the minute, guys. Don't even have a floor. Don't even have a floor. So, 30 squats still to do. Again, thank you, Corey. Next piece of news is about Jeff Cobb. Jeff Cobb himself personally confirmed my reporting that he was working in New Japan Pro Wrestling under a handshake deal during the last months of his time with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Interest from WWE was sustained and patient. They've been interested in him for about 5 years now. This is the first time that they could really make it happen. In order to ensure that he came over, Kevin, you keep saying stuff and Cecil disagrees with you. In order to make sure that he came over, several promises were made to Jeff Cobb to essentially state that he would be getting used well and would be part of a strong push. The main request and the main promise from the WWE is that there will be at least one match with a top-level talent such as Roman Reigns. So a Jeff Cobb versus Roman Reigns match, not feud to be clear, match, is being considered at some point during the next year. Now, if Roman Reigns versus Jacob Fatu is our end game, and there is talk of a Roman Reigns versus Jacob Fatu end game to compete for the Ula Fala, which Jacob Fatu would be winning, then Jeff Cobb being involved in that seems a perfect way to do it. It also means there's a possibility, however remote, either in War Games or in some sort of Survivor Series style match, that we would see Team Roman Reigns bloodline versus Team Jacob Fatu family. Give me War Games and give me that combination, and I will be a very happy boy. We have 3 pieces of news left and of course 30 squats, so we will be keeping ourselves busy. And now I'm going to keep catching up with the chat. Thank you everyone on TikTok. We peaked at 8 just there. We're at 6 now. We have 2,500 likes, so thank you everyone for your continued effort and generosity. We've also gained 2 followers and I'm going to sneeze again. I think it's because of what I'm ripping up. I need to stop. I need to calm down. Bear with. Cool. Everton says, speaking recently with Ariel Hawani, Saudi GEA chairman Turki Al-Sheikh revealed that discussions are underway with WWE to potentially host WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia around 2026 or 2027. One of the many reasons that the WWE is not willing to commit to a 5-year deal. Rikan says, do you see Nakamura going to AEW or Japan? I see him working in AEW. I see him going to Japan. Everton says, per WrestleVotes, TNA is sending Joe Hendry, Moose and Nemeth brothers for Worlds Collide on June 7th. First I've heard of Moose. Historically, WWE have not been that interested in Moose. Declan says, of all these releases, did the WWE vacate the mid-card titles in the women's division? No. They've got more than enough women, they just need to start using them. We could have a Zelina Vega versus Julia feud that I think would be a lot of fun over a United States Championship. We've actively got a Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyrie feud for the Intercontinental Championship. We have enough people. Ray says, who do you think is going to win? Adam Page versus Will Ospreay? Personally, I'm going with Ospreay on this one. Ole, welcome, says, hello Tom, happy Friday to you and as well to everyone in the chat. Thank you, Ole, I appreciate you dropping in. How are you guys doing? Sid says, Goldberg says his retirement match will be in the South. Yeah, Atlanta, Georgia. It makes perfect sense. Though I will say, if he's going to do it in Georgia, forget Gunter. Give me Bron Breakker. You know, his much better replacement. Cecil says, I think Will Ospreay and Mercedes Money win the Owen Hart Memorial. Kevin says, sorry, but War Games doesn't need to be this year. We need to take a break from War Game year or two. Unfortunately, Triple H is going to disagree with you there, Kevin. I get where you're coming from, and I don't necessarily disagree. Triple H wants War Games, and he's going to get it. Roy says, Scott D'Amore confirms he tried to sign CM Punk for TNA after the AEW exit. Yeah, I was reporting on that at the time. TNA were trying to sign a boatload of people then, including, just mentioned, Will Ospreay. Ray says, Drew McIntyre confirms he's working hurt after Backlash scare. Yeah, he's in a lot of pain, but the thing with Drew McIntyre, he's always in a lot of pain. The man wrestles a style which is eventually going to probably end his career early. But it's very entertaining, and he really enjoys it. So it's really hard to tell him not to. Calvin says, we will be getting the iconic blue cage tomorrow night. You bet we will. That's what they shipped out. Harris says, what do you think we're getting from Solo tonight? We will see a continuation of the story with Jacob Fatu and, of course, with Jeff Cobb. So we are continuing to see Solo build Jeff Cobb up as a support for Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu does not want it. He wants to fight his own battles. I suspect Jeff Cobb will wrestle a few more times over the next few weeks to further establish himself. That means Solo Sikoa not wrestling, but being Jeff Cobb's mouthpiece, or JC Mateo, I should say, nowadays. Welcome, Harris. Good to see you. Right. So, we have 30 squats left to do and 3 pieces of news. We're going to do 10 more. Thank you, Harris. I appreciate that. I like how many people right now are coming into TikTok randomly, asking a question, or answering the question as best I can, and they're following. I appreciate you. That's 3 people in this stream alone, so something is clearly working. So, 30 more squats. The point at which I die, I do apologise for, but 30 more squats, and then we do, 10 more squats, and then we do our next piece of news. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Derek, for following as well on TikTok. I apologise for being a floating head on YouTube for a moment there. That can't have been fun for many people. I don't have the best form. I think I need to... That's 4. Spread my legs a little wider. That's 4. Oh yeah, that's massively helped the form. That's 6. Only 3 more. And then we'll get to our next piece of news, which is as regards Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. 20 still to do. We'll end the show on 65 squats. 65. Feels like a very big number. Linda says, I'm a new follower and wondered how long you've been doing this. The first show we did, it's arguable really, under my own name, it's been since the NXT show before Survivor Series War Games in 2020. When I literally grabbed a camera, recorded a minute-long review, uploaded it, and it got 91 views. And I thought to myself, I could do this. Technically, the live shows started on the Sports Keeda channel when they offered me a decent sum, it was a start, to do Monday Night Raw previews at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was during the lockdown, so I thought, hey, I've got time, why not? And I just sort of fell in love with it. And funnily enough, we actually have more people on this channel now than I used to have on the 3 million strong group that Sportskeeda have on Facebook. So I've got to say, I'm very, very happy with it overall. Yeah, Royal Rumble 2021 was our first big show. And it was because usually at that time, before the lockdown, I would watch Royal Rumble with a few friends. And I suddenly didn't have that option. So I went live and found a few new friends. Oh, we have another donation. That's another 10 squats. We're going back up to 30 again. Arn says 75 just sounds better. Thank you very much, Arn. It's another generous donation. I appreciate all of you for trying to kill me tonight. 75 sounds like a very big number over the course of an hour, but I'll take it. Linda says, you're one of my favourite lives and thanks for the answer. Anytime, Linda, this is what we do here. You ask me questions, I do everything I can to answer them. I have been thinking at some point, because there are a number of live challenges on TikTok, the idea being that it will be beneficial long term. Firstly, more shows on TikTok, just like purely on TikTok, would bring more people over to the YouTube while also helping to grow on TikTok. Win-win as far as I see it. It's just a case of finding enough content to not be sort of making it up. It just, as long as people find it interesting, I'll keep going, if you know what I mean. I don't want to bore people. Thank you, Arn. I will add that 10 to our total. So far we've done 45 out of what will eventually be 75. Our next piece of news then, as regards Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. It's been confirmed to me that Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair specifically requested to work together again after such a long time. WWE then paired them up before finalising the long-term intention of the union. So this is, for many, a way to kill time until the Wyatt Six are ready. However, for Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair, they simply wanted to work together again because they are genuinely quite close friends. It may not amount to much because the creative team didn't really have anything concrete to go on when they actually started it out. So Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair both independently asked to work together. WWE paired them up. That's one way to get Alexa back on TV, and also with Charlotte Flair, because there is a lot of stress and strain happening backstage at the moment. Charlotte Flair, it is suggested, needed a friend, and Alexa Bliss was more than happy to be that. So that's what's going on with Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. Bam Bam says, I think it'll make sense for the Wyatts to return tonight because today is Bray's birthday. I know a lot of people in the chat last week were speculating the same. Dylan says, given there's only 4 matches for Saturday night's main event tomorrow, unless they announced another one tonight, I see matches being slightly longer than the 2 Saturday night main event matches. I do think they'll add one more. I would hope it'll be a women's match, and I would hope it would be tonight. Maybe we'll see something involving Zelina Vega and Chelsea Green in a rematch or something like that. I'm not sure. But we do have people it could be. We certainly could have Nia Jax versus Tiffany Stratton again. There are options available. Dad says, big up Tom, are we doing predictions for tonight? I've shared mine. I'm happy to hear yours, Dad. You go right ahead. Ray said, Josh Alexander said TNA never offered him a new contract. That's why he left. Bam said, is there any truth about NXT Europe? Your guess is as good as mine at this point. I don't have anything that can really confirm. As regards NXT Europe, I haven't heard anything about it in about a year now. I'd love to have something for you. Unfortunately, I simply don't. So, right. Before we do our next piece of news, there's now, after that 10 squats we did earlier, still 30 squats. Feeling it in the knees. So let's do 10 more, shall we? And take us down to 20 left. We're going to now go above we're not going to go above, we're going to do 45. No, we're not, we're going to do 55. We'll be up to 55 at the end of this. Did you hear my knee crack then? I did. Ooh, I might be reaching a limit here. No, 75. I'll do 75. That's not difficult. That's a little difficult. Feeling the strain. Feeling my age. I'm going to be doing nearly double my age with this. But hey, my knees may hate me. And you may too. But by the end of this, you know what will happen? Yes, they'll hate me even more. Always good news. Always good news. Next piece of news. One of the top names on Raw is being moved over to SmackDown. WWE currently trying to put together the top picks for the draft. And CM Punk moving over to SmackDown is a name that keeps coming up. This would be with a view to feuding CM Punk against John Cena, and long term looking at a few different options for Punk, who's been stuck in feuds with people like Seth Rollins. They are looking to get him away from Rollins, and while this move would put him on the same brand as Drew McIntyre once again, there is enough people in the SmackDown locker room to maintain distance between them. So at the moment, WWE are looking at more names for the draft, and CM Punk moving to SmackDown continues to come up. Derek says, any more news regarding the cancellation of WrestleMania venue in New Orleans? Our top story today on the YouTube side was about that. Las Vegas seemed to have won this one. WWE is seeking to placate and apologize to New Orleans with B-level PLEs because WrestleMania is going to be in Las Vegas. Where were we? Nearly there. Sid says, Eric Bischoff says Hulk Hogan can feel his hands for the first time in a long time after neck surgery. Bailey says, sounds like a 5th anniversary show is around the corner. I mean, technically, yeah, the Royal Rumble would be that. Dylan says, Alvin, what would it be about if they do a segment? Marcel says, what I always like is that it feels like one big family here where everyone can be who they are. I hope so. Now, obviously, it's important to me that this is a very well-informed chat, that we always source information, and by and large, we do. But also, I want this to feel like a load of friends coming together to watch wrestling. I want everyone here to feel like they can just sit down, grab a drink, and chat about wrestling. It's one of the reasons I try to read every question and every comment. I try my best to do so. We're just all hanging out and talking wrestling. That's my focus here, and I appreciate all of you for joining me for it. Ron says, hey Tom, I spread your report on AEW maybe not being about to re-sign money. Then they assumed it's a guarantee she's not interested in re-signing of AEW because of bad booking. Yeah, funnily enough, the more you share, the more people assume. And it's usually just like pure guesswork. They don't know, they're not sure, but they will tell you what you mean. They will tell you what you said, and they'll tell you what you mean. They'll keep correcting you. It does happen. It really does. Another follower on TikTok. Thank you very much, Curious George. Very curious, apparently. Just wanted to check it out. If you've not subscribed on the YouTube side, please consider doing so. In addition to these lives, we also do videos that you might want to check out about PLE Wednesdays, WTF Wrestling. Always worth a check because we really dove into quite a lot there, including Mercedes Money and her issues with the media, as well as how CM Punk used wrestling media to get a spot in WWE. And also at the moment, every month we're doing a wrestling receipt where we look at all the fake news in wrestling and point out particular offenders. Bailey says, this seems to be a difficult time for Charlotte in and out of the ring. The writing has been poor for her of late. Ray says, what's your all-time favourite wrestling game? My Day of Reckoning on GameTube. WrestleMania 2000. I know a lot of people cite No Mercy, but I honestly feel that WrestleMania 2000, the one before it, of a similar build, was a better game. The Road to WrestleMania mode was just a lot more fun than the story mode on No Mercy. What can I say? I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. KJ says, I don't know if they do a women's match. Unfortunately, those shows go quick. And this is the biggest Saturday night main event since they brought back the show. I'd imagine these 4 matches get time. Truth versus Cena could be quick. Keyshawn is annoyed at Dave Meltzer. Calvin says, Austin Theory looked extremely shocked by the fans chanting his name. I really hope that continues. Creative and management aren't going to have any choice but to give him a push. He's been put in front of the fans with the intention of basically seeing how people respond to him. If people continue to respond well, Austin Theory is going to come out of this getting something good. Keith Jones says, when is Karrion Kross going to do something? Good question. I would imagine it's when he signs a new deal. Sid is asking about Mohammed Hassan. I wasn't watching at the time, so I can't really comment. Bam Bam says, do you know what names are planned to appear for Worlds Collide from AAA? Because there was a report this week of some names being planned for that PLE. Yes, I have seen that report, and what I will say is it didn't mention El Patron, who is holding gold there, and you'd definitely be expecting. So I'm interested to see how it happens there. Keith Sean said, is Joe Hendry under WWE contract? Not as of yet. Declan just shouts, hit the like button, and I respect that game. Kevin says you can do Naomi versus Jade rematch tomorrow. Very true. Very true. They've lined it up quite nicely. And Proud Dad says, being that Cena Truth is non-title, I won't be surprised if Truth somehow gets the win. Yeah. Whenever they line it up like that, I kind of expect it to be a win for the non-champion. The only thing that really makes sense. We have one more piece of news, but before we do that, we have 20 more squats to do. 20 more. So we're going to do another 10. I keep promising you guys, you're going to get all the squats. All the squats are going to happen. You're going to see a lot of it. And it's going to be done every time. You're going to get every squat. Ooh, even if it does mean like a couple of different recordings and like etc. Anyway, there's 1, 2. We're not far off. My knees feel like they're far off. My knees feel like I'm going through treacle. That's 50 squats in less than an hour. For me, at my age and my level of fitness, I'm impressed by myself. Ray says, do you think NXT or TNA is better? I don't really watch either with any sort of regularity, so I find it difficult to answer that. I've watched more NXT, but I've also heard very good things about TNA, so it's a difficult one to answer. Calvin says, have you noticed Booker T always falling asleep in the middle of a broadcast? I did when he was on Raw. Man's just not very exciting unless Stephanie Vaquer's on TV. At which point, honestly, I don't really want to watch Booker T. Keyshawn says, non-title match, Truth gonna win it. The other Mike says, what's your favourite beer / alcoholic beverage? Ooh, okay. So I like a good rum. I'm big on my rum. There's some pineapple rum that I quite enjoy. I like Southern Comfort. I think typically my tipple of choice would be Jameson's Irish whiskey. Because I'm Irish and also just a little bit pretentious. You gotta connect the dots, man. You gotta connect the dots. Keith Jones says, I can see Punk versus Cena at Money in the Bank. I think it'll be too soon for that. Bam Bam says, I think Alberto will not appear at Worlds Collide. There is a title match planned for May 31st. I think he will lose a title at that event. Keith Jones says, why is WWE going back to Las Vegas again? Money. Derek says, Soko and Lime shaking over rocks. Ooh. Ed hates having to listen to Booker every Tuesday night. Who can blame you? Genuinely, who can actually blame you? Because I don't think anyone can. Last piece of news is as regards Roxanne and the Judgment Day. So we can exclusively share why Roxanne was brought into the Judgment Day and what they're intending to achieve with that. Dylan, my surname is Colohue, mate. Colohue. I would have thought Irish was, like, suggested. Anyway, Roxanne was apparently introduced to the Judgment Day to begin a Liv Morgan face turn. This is a way to, firstly, ensure that the spotlight is still on Roxanne. Secondly, develop the story in the absence of Liv Morgan. And also begin a program which will continue the relationship between Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio after the WWE turned Dominic Mysterio face. There have been some concerns because the intention was to turn Finn Balor face, but with the fan reactions to Dominic, the WWE are considering different options and Triple H seems set to turn Dominic face. With this in mind, they want to keep Liv Morgan with him. That would mean making some changes there. Roxanne is there to essentially out-heel Liv Morgan, potentially even flirt with Dominic, and to replay the previous stories. Calvin says, I'm surprised Dom hasn't been seen as a bit of a player. I would say he has been when you consider Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan already. Roxanne seemingly next. And how's she going to flirt? Chicken. Did you see what she did? Blatant flirtation. Blatant. You might as well just jump into bed with the guy. If I bought him chicken, you would know full well what I was doing. Those crumbs are going to be... Whoa, no. Weird. B. Lee says, any word on WWE being able to announce a PLE in Mexico? The original planned date has come and gone, so they would need to sort of build a new contract now. And at the moment, things aren't moving quite as quickly as they had hoped. Keyshawn says, can you see Sammy turning heel? Personally, I do, yes. And says about Dom about to get Roxanne, he don't miss. He really doesn't. Thank you, Kelly, and thank you everyone who responded to that request. 58 likes now. We do continue to go up. Kelvin, I've already read that. Declan says, Dom is the new godfather. Matta says, whose next signs need to be filling the arena for Dom? I'd love that. I'd love that. Ray says, are you looking forward to a Goldberg retirement match? Hell no. And Proud Dad says, don't forget Roxanne also gave Carlito apples. You know what we didn't see? What she gave to Finn Balor. Mike says, the pop when Dom reunites with Ray. The hug it out chants are going to be amazing. Derek says, Finner's heel is working fine. And Sean says, Roxanne knows the way to a man's heart is through his stomach, which is not unfair. As a man who has eaten food at some point in the past, I gotta say, food good. Food good. Right, we're up to 65, guys. We're up to 65. 10 left. Standing up was not easy there. Oh, my stream has briefly had a bit of a moment. Still seems to be working. This is something that's happened before when it just gets a little bit overloaded. I'm just going to refresh the page. You should still be seeing me. There should still be no problems. There are still no problems. Yep, everything's working fine. It just had a momentary blip there, but yep, everything's still working fine. So, final 10. And then, I think your boy Tom's going to go have a little nap. It is 11 p.m. here. Oh, you didn't like that, did you? Oh, you really didn't. Okay. You guys are forcing fitness in me, and I kind of hate you for it, and also very much respect you for it. That's 70. Oh, feeling it. At this point, anyone who makes a donation, you're going to have to wait till the next show. Just warning you ahead of time that is 75. And yes, I know I'm unfit, and I know you're all very much proving it consistently. Anyone who makes a donation from here, we will not be honouring until the next show, so please be aware of that. We are, of course, at this point going to be wrapping up. We've been live for 52 minutes. We peaked in the ever so slightest double figures on TikTok, which we're seeing quite a lot at the minute. Life is indeed pain. Proud Dad. And on the YouTube side, 114 people. Thank you, everyone, for generous donations, for gifts, as well as cash donations on the other side. Thank you, everyone who's joined. You'll have seen an ad, which has helped me. Even if you're on YouTube Premium, part of your monthly subscription fee goes to me. So you're still donating to the channel just by being here. Everyone has said chat rate. Everyone who's asked a question. Everyone who's joined. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. I've been Tom Colohue. You have been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.